Okay, I think we are live, I believe, and we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking about the Super Fantasy Brawl League, online league, which I'm hoping will kick off on the 11th, no, the 10th of January, which is on Sunday. We've already got a few people signed up, but we definitely need a few more, ideally, to make it a real viable league. I'm just going to wait for a few people to join the chat, and then I'll talk about a few things. But I wanted to go through kind of Battlefy, how that works, a little bit about the so-called prize that I'm going to put forward for the winner of the league, and just a little bit about Super Fantasy Brawl in general. I know there's been a bit of chat on Discord about certain characters, OP characters perhaps, or the future of Super Fantasy Brawl. So it'd be quite cool to do a bit of that as well. So hopefully this is live. I've got, seems to be a good feed on my end. Unfortunately, it's if you've watched any of my live streams before, with the hardware I have, 720p is about as good as I can get, but that shouldn't be too bad. I'm just going to be showing some websites and myself, so we don't need it in high definition particularly for this. Now I know if you're in the UK, there's an important PM address right now at 8 PM about the increase in COVID cases and the additional lockdown and all the rest of it. So I imagine there'll be a few people watching that, of course, instead. But I wanted to talk about the league in general. So I'm going to get started now. And please feel free to talk about anything in the chat, ask questions, join in the chat, and we'll go through about SFB. Hey, Frederick, how are we doing? So, first of all, Thagor, which is quite prevalent on the French Discord, as well as the French Facebook group for Super Fantasy Brawl. He ran a French league a few months back now, where I live streamed the final, and it was really successful. I had quite a few players, and I ran a real casual tournament at the end of the summer. But obviously, Mythic ran an official tournament like a month ago, or a little bit longer, and that was really successful. And I just wanted to enable a league where we could have some different groups, as it were. So I'm thinking mostly kind of like an American group, a Europe group, and maybe a kind of Australia, Asia, certainly Eastern Asia group as well. So to help with time zones, because that can be a real problem when you're trying, especially like with US players trying to play UK players or European players, that time difference, which can be up to like 7 hours, even 8 hours, can be quite troublesome to arrange games and so forth. So the hope is to kind of get these 3 different groups called West, East, and Central, and get them to kind of play as a group. So we're talking at the group stage first, and it's very much similar to soccer. I'm going to call it soccer just in case we've got some American friends here on the live stream. So with the Soccer World Cup, the way that works is you have group stages, and then the top 2 teams, if you like, from each of those groups will go on to a knockout tournament in the finals. So the aim is to do this tournament exactly the same. So we'll have the Central, West, and East group. People in those groups will play each other. They will play 6 games. So the idea, I think the plan will be to basically play each other twice in a 1-game match. So it's a 1-game match only. They will then be in part of like a league, so like a league table with like, and I'll talk about the points and rules and stuff. I'll go to the website and show you that on Battlefy. But effectively, we'll play those 6 rounds, as it were, and then in 6 weeks. And then after that, the top 2 players from each of those, or possibly, it depends on the numbers on each group. So if we've got, let's say we've got 8 people in one group and 4 people in another group. Therefore, what we might do is say 2 people from the 4 people group, so half of the people in one group will go through, But then we might take 4 people from the 8 people group. So it does depend on the numbers, because ideally for a knockout tournament to like at the end of the league, for that to work, you kind of need in multiples of 2s, right? So you need like 2, 4, 8, 16 people for it to work properly. I'm sure I can fix it if it's only 6 people, but that is the plan. It's going to be using the current state of Super Fancy Brawl, so the 15 characters that are available of Super Fancy Brawl, and it's using Tabletopia, which if you've seen the tournament, the official tournament that Mythic did, or you've gone to any of the conventions and you see some demos played, Tabletopia is what's used for that. Also, Tabletopia can be used through a Chrome browser or through Steam, so it's very accessible, and it's a really good version of the game. I've used it so much now. It's brilliant. There'll also be 15 champions for each player, so we can have multiples. So we can have, let's say, 2 Shuzals, probably being the best character in the game at the moment, arguably. We've got Corvash hitting on his heels, I think. If we looked at kind of like the finals of the official tournament, there were certainly 2 of the strongest characters, most used characters, most banned characters from the game. So if you're not aware, you're going to take 5 characters through, or choose 5 characters when you open up Tabletopia for your round match, and then your opponent's going to ban one of those 5 characters, and then you're going to choose 3 from those remaining 4. So that's the play. Unfortunately, not using the physical copy. That would be fantastic, obviously. But the hope is whenever the pandemic will start to ease, and we hopefully with the vaccinations that will help, and then we come more into normality. I really hope, and a lot of the chat on Discord has been about this, I really hope that the organised play really does kick forward for this game. It'll really help it. Very similar, I was saying, very similar to Fantasy Flight. So Fantasy Flight, if you've played in any kind of local game store tournaments with Fantasy Flight games, they're really fantastic, because Fantasy Flight will supply an organised play kit. Marvel Crisis Protocol does the same. And then that includes a lot of exclusive stuff you can only get through one of these organised play. Then you do a tournament. And then usually the winner of that will get like a ticket towards a region, a kind of, because they're kind of like regional tournaments, I guess you can say. Will get a ticket to the national championship, which usually are held at conventions. So obviously it's all completely dependent when we get back to some kind of normality. So I really hope that that's the structure that Mythic Games are thinking about for Super Fancy Brawl, and that will just help it to drive forward and really push forward. I mean, we've already got sneak peeks of some future characters. There are many more characters in the pipeline, so it's going to be really fantastic to see those things take off. So that's the hope, and we're really I'm being really positive. I'm really hopeful that Super Fancy Brawl is such a fantastic game, and it's built perfectly for organised play. So I'm just really hopeful that it does really kick off when the time does come. So before that happens, we have to play online. We have to play remotely. Many conventions are run remotely, so understandably, tournaments are. So that's the main reason for why this league is going to be on Tabletopia. Now, how I'm going to track everything in terms of games, scores, league tables, positioning, all of that information, we're going to use a mixture of both Battlefy and Discord. So both are in the will be in the description below, so I'll put those in the description below. I've also posted on Facebook as well as the normal Mythic Games Discord channel, just to gauge that interest. And there's definitely enough people to run a tournament, a league. Sorry. How big the league will be dependent on the cut-off day, which I've said is going to be Friday. So as long as people get registered on Battlefy by Friday, then I can arrange groups. I might have to collapse groups. So if we don't, let's say we only have 2 people in one of those groupings, one of those brackets, let's say the East bracket, then I might have to jump those into the central bracket. It might just be a thing we do. You'll have a week to play a round game, okay? So hopefully that'll give enough time for people to talk to each other and arrange a game at some point. So this is how they've done it. Basically, the reason where I've got all this idea from is from Marvel Crisis Protocol, which has run an online league very similar to this for 4 seasons now, where they have the same brackets. So they have these 3 different brackets, and then you can join any of those groups. Obviously, that's a bit more popular. Certainly now it's gone through several seasons. But it works really well because you're able to arrange games with people in the same time zone kind of areas as yourself. So it makes it a lot easier to kind of sort that out. Okay, so I'm going to move over now to the Battlefy, hopefully, the Battlefy website. So if you follow the link to Battlefy, it will come up along here where mine says it's checked in and then play. It'll say register, and you click on that and it'll ask you for a name and I believe a country flag or something like that, just so we can get an idea of where people are coming from effectively. So you'll click on that and you put those details in and then you'll be registered in. So far we've got 8 people who are registered, of course, myself. So we've got 8 at the moment, but we're hoping to get obviously a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but hopefully some more, definitely some more. And that'll be what the hope to do. So if I click on the overview, I can talk about a few things. Don't worry about the fact it says Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. We're not playing that. We are playing Super Fancy Brawl. And the reason why it says this is because Battlefy is predominantly a video game tournament organising program. So I had to choose something, and I thought Super Fancy Brawl, Super Smash Bros. It's pretty much the same, right? It'll be run from, as I said, from Sunday, this Sunday, January the 10th, 7 p.m. GMT, and I'm going to do another live stream launching the tournament. As I said, it's 1v1. We're not doing 2v2 or anything like that. And there are a few rules to think about, and this is really just the format, to be honest. As I said, it's going to run for 6 weeks, where you'll play 6 games, one per week. After that, the top 2 players, I've said top 2 players from each group will go through to the knockout finals, but we'll really see what the groups are like. That could certainly change to kind of like 3, 3, and 2, or something like that. They're going to be time zone groups, where we've got GMT 0, so at the same time as Europe, or Greenwich Mean Time. Then we've got the +7 and the -7. So the +7 for those in the West, or US if you like, and Americas, and then -7 for those in Asia or Oceania. The recommended time to play is anywhere around 7 to 10 p.m. So we're talking about evening times for those games. But however, obviously, you just talk to each other and you'll arrange it whenever you feel convenient. It doesn't have to be at those times. I'm just saying you join the group that you think you're going to play. So as I've said here, let's say you're from the UK, but you're going to find it easier to play at about midday rather than in the evening. So therefore, you might opt to go into group 3, even though you're not in that time zone, if you see, because that's the most convenient for you to play. Games are to be played by the following Sunday, 11 p.m. GMT, and that's enabling me to get the scores in and set up the pairings for Monday. Scoring: 3 points for a win, 1 point for just playing and losing, 0 points for no-show. So, you know, it's going to happen that people can't make it that week or whatever it might be. So therefore, I don't want to penalise the player who really wants to get a game in. So they will score an automatic 5-0 win for 3 points. Okay. Your results that you get, you submit to the Discord channel under scores, the channel scores, and then I will update Battlefy with results and all the rest of it. For arranging games and using voice chat, we're going to use Discord. And there are separate channels for each zone group, time zone group. Okay, so you can talk, arrange games, and all the rest of it. There's also a problems arranging game channel, which I will be keeping an eye on. And if people are having trouble trying to set up a game with each other, you can just post in there, and I'll try and get in contact with the players or whatever it might be. And if it's unable to make any of the suggested times from a player, then they will forfeit a game. Okay. The other player will get a win by default, 3 points and a 5-0 win. Okay. The result itself will be a tiebreaker. Players will select 5 champions as their champion pool when they're in Tabletopia for the match, and it can be changed. You don't have to stick with the same 5 characters each week. You can change that up as soon as you go into the game. Played on Tabletopia, certainly for the group stages, it'll be a single match, and when we come to the finals, the knockout, it'll be the best of 3. So, for all the group stages, to mitigate some of the disadvantage for the second player, for player 2, they will be able to mulligan one of the challenge cards from the challenge deck. So when you draw them in the setup phase, you'll be able to mulligan, second player only, will be able to mulligan one of those challenge decks, okay, during setup. You don't have to, but it is an option you have. The reason why we've got that in there is because in the past we've had some really, or noticed that there's been some problems with, sorry, give me 2 seconds. What's going on now? Sorry, bear with me 2 seconds. So there's been some problems with, a bit of unfair bias towards player 1. With those, sorry about this, with that issue. So moving on to, hopefully, as we move on. So moving back to, what's happened here? Sorry, bear with me 2 seconds. I think my window capture's capturing the wrong thing. It's more like it. Okay, that's better. So, the joys of trying to live stream in the kitchen. Yeah, very good, Ash. So we've, so as I was saying, there are a number of things to think about. This is an additional kind of like homemade rule about this challenge deck. This is not in the rules, the official rules. This is not an official thing. There was chat about it in the official tournament a few months ago, and they were talking about this player 2 having a bit of an advantage for 1-game matches. This is the key for a 1-game match, so only in the group stages, of being able to mulligan some of the challenge decks, or else player 1 could effectively get 3 victory points out of 5 for the win, pretty much at the start of turn 2. So that's to mitigate that if the player chooses to. The group stage will be played over 6 weeks, where similar players will be matched up. So, for example, the top 2 players from round 1, they will be against each other in round 2. The bottom 2 players from each group will play each other. So you're always going to be playing, hopefully, you're always going to be, after the first round that is, you'll be playing people of similar ability. And again, I've just taken this straight from Marvel Crisis Protocol League, and it works so well. It just made it so you weren't getting absolutely pounded every single time or finding it too easy every single game. It's to make it a little bit more of a level playing field. Games in the group stage will be played against opponents in the same bracket, so in the same group, and that's why we've got the different time zones. Okay, so that's the kind of the rundown of the format. Prizes. So moving on to prizes. So I'm working on a trophy of sorts. So I got delivered a Shuzhou with a missing arm. Okay, so I'm going to use a bit of modelling and make it a unique custom-built character that will be for the winner of the league. Now, especially if it's in Europe or UK, I could probably post it. But if we're going to further afield, like the US and so forth, postage is going to go up quite considerably, and the cost of that I'm not going to be able to cover. But certainly, what the plan will be is the winner will choose a colour scheme to paint Shuzhou in. Let me just bring up Shuzhou so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the Shuzhou with the missing arm, and the idea, backwards camera. The idea is to swap this using a paperclip and some green stuff, to be holding one of these trophies. So you can basically put the trophy onto Shuzhou that you've got as a kind of like the winning trophy. So you can have him on the grandstand or whatever it might be. So that is the plan. That is the prize at the moment, and of course bragging rights. The fact you've managed to win the league. So I'm afraid I've not got huge giveaways. I don't have any budget for that. So apologies about that. But we'll see how that goes. But ultimately, the reason why you play in these online tournaments and so forth, and not just online tournaments, kind of like actual real tournaments in real life, is to meet those connections, the community, play some games with different people. That's you can't put money on that, and that's really why we play board games. Okay, we love that community, and we've seen it with the Discord community. You know how strong that is and how close knit that is. It's like-minded people playing games that we all love. So hopefully this league will be a little bit of a tribute to that. Okay, so let's transition back. So that's the prizes. So apologies about the terrible prize funds. So the schedule, group stages running from the 10th of January, as I've said a number of times. It was weird writing down 2021, by the way. In fact, I probably put that down wrong, didn't I? Or did I even say 20? I might have put 2020 in some of these. And it's going to go for 6 weeks, 6 games, 1 a week, until the 21st of February. Then the finals will commence straight away after that, to run from the 21st of February. And of course, it depends on the number of players, will determine how many rounds there are, but planning to finish on the 14th of March with that final. Now, obviously, when we come to the knockouts, we're going to have a mix of time zones. So that could pose a little bit more of a problem. But if we stick to weekends, I think that tends to be the best time, or Friday evenings. So it does depend on timings, of course, but they tend to be the best kind of times for any finals in terms of meeting up and playing these games. I really don't want to make it hard for people that aren't in Europe or in GMT time zone. I want to make it as inclusive as possible, but we'll have to see how that can run and what's the best times to run that. And then finally, contact is the Discord link to the Discord server, which is dedicated to this Fantasy Brawl League. Okay, so a fair amount of information. As I said, 8 of you have managed to get on, well, 7 of you, not including myself. 7 of you managed to get on, registered, onto Battlefy. You're on to the Discord channel, which is fantastic. Don't worry about if you've not really played the game much at all. People in this community are so good, so friendly, that they'll be more than happy to help people out. And, especially if you're getting certain rules, you're not quite sure about certain rules, don't worry about it. I mean, you've already seen the prizes. You're not you're not going to miss out on a huge amount. I feel this league needs to be more about just getting a player base, a community player base. And let's hope that we can move on to Season 2 and Season 3 and just keep this going until we can get into our local game stores and play this in real life. That's what I really want this league to be. Now, in terms of running live streams, as I say, you're going to be using Discord to do the chat server. And just be aware, on Discord, there's also a video streaming ability as well. So if you want to show your games playing through, please do. If you want to live stream on Twitch or YouTube, please do. The more exposure the game gets, the more popular it will become, and the more people will see how it can be played in a competitive mode, even though this is loosely competitive, I would say. Okay, so I would say that's pretty much most of the kind of announcements. I just want to talk about Battlefy itself. So with Battlefy, you've got this. It's really, really nice. So you've got your participants, of course, which will come up on here. Then you've got your brackets. So let's go to Group Stage Central, for example. Don't worry about the fact that it only says 4 here. there will be. This is 4v4. So these are games, not players. So this is first game, second game, third game, fourth player, working on 8 people. Now, that might change depending on how many people get, and the 6 rounds that we've got. You will post your scores onto Discord, and I will place them onto here. And then you can basically click on that, and you can see what the score was, what their seeds were as well, which is quite cool. So obviously after the first round, we'll have seeding, and that'll help me to kind of match people up. And we'll definitely have seeding when it comes to the finals. You'll have a look at stats, so you'll be able to see, so obviously there's going to be none available at the moment, but stats will be there, standings of course, showing first, second and third, and all the rest of it. So all of the information will be there on Battle 5 for you to see. When you get to the finals, you'll notice it's very similar to the Soccer World Cup. So the idea is the top 8 people, let's just call it the top 8 people from all groups will be met here. Now, how I do that will probably be is you'll play people in your time zones and your groups, and then I'll mash them all together when it comes to sorting out who goes through to the knockouts, and then just grab the top 8 people overall, and they will fight it out. And obviously it'll be Seed 1 versus Seed 8 and so forth. Just like in any sports fixtures that you would see. Then it's a knockout tournament, so the winners of those will go to a semi-final, and then the winners of that will go to the final and be champion, and there'll also be a third place match as well. All of these, as it says at the top here, are best of 3 rounds, okay? Stats will be there, matches, when those matches will be. Obviously, I haven't done any brackets or anything yet, so all of that will be there to see. So that's all in brackets, which should be quite cool. Media, if anyone wants to put in some tournament streams, I just put YouTube, but it doesn't seem to give me a address, so this gives you literally nothing, takes you to nowhere, and then you can look at stats itself, okay? So hopefully, and this is all free, so I'm hoping this is pretty good, because, if we've got everything else, we can also, of course, I can put announcements down, like who's going through, who had an exceptional game, an exceptional round, whatever it might be. So that's the plan for Battle Fight. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that should really, really work well in our favour when it comes to the tournament and keeping it on track in all of the stats and everything else. Okay. Now, in terms of Shuzhou, the winning prize, I'll be modelling it probably in the next few weeks. I'll take a recording of it as well, because I've not really modelled with green stuff. I filled in gaps with this stuff, but I've not modelled with it before, so that could be interesting. So that'll be quite a fun video. And of course, I will be continuing the painting videos and the gameplay videos as I go through, as much time as I've got available to do all of that. Okay, so that's the information in terms of what I wanted to go through in this live stream. So I thought, it would be quite cool to just chat about Super Fantasy Brawl at the moment. There's a new character that was teased in one of the live streams. I forgot the name of her now. She was the martial arts character with 5 health. If anyone from the chat remember the name, just have a little look. I think it's in here somewhere. Anyone in the chat? No? The cat. What's it called? Oh, I just call her Cat. Martial Cat. We're talking about her and the fact that, she's got a pretty low health and not much defense. What kind of tactics will be involved with that character? Now, we're thinking it's going to be quite nimble, probably quite good with reactions. And for example, there's some extra little ideas that have been thrown around. So I was thinking that how cool it would be to have a kind of a normal action card, like an attack, that would have a top section. So the card's in 2 halves. The top section is going to be the normal attack, and then the bottom section would be a unique reaction for just her as a character. So normally in the normal game, a reaction card, which you got 1 of 6 for each of your characters that you have in your team. You'll play that reaction card just for her, but you play it out of your turn. So it almost gives you this additional reaction, and that would be really quite a cool little mechanic. But obviously, I don't know. I don't know what the situation will be. I guess we'll find out when the new characters come out. But it's good to see that these new characters are coming out, and they're coming out, hopefully not too distant future, when things get sorted out with factories and production and all the rest of it. I mean, board games are in a pretty dire state at the moment, as the whole world is, of course. So it's waiting for all of that to kind of catch up with itself and try and sort itself out. So fingers crossed, these new characters will bring. I'm sure they will bring new things to the table, which will mix things up, make it quite fresh in terms of Super Fantasy Brawl and everything else. I've also, if you've looked at some other videos from my channel, I've also developed a kind of solo mode for SFB. It's quite a bit of a challenge because the nature of the game is very tactical and thinking on the fly. It works well as a kind of training. I would say as a training mode. If you want to try different characters out and see how they do, it works quite well. And the other thing I was thinking of doing, and this is taken kind of from Street Fighter's the miniature game, which is literally coming hopefully to our doors in the next month or so. That's got like a boss battle mode, where, and Marvel Crisis Protocol also does this, where one player, takes one character who's super powerful, and then then you have two other players who take on the three characters as normal, and they're trying to meet objectives. So it'll be much more kind of scenario based, but the plan is to start working on that in the next couple of weeks, and then I'll try and develop that through in the next month or so, which would be quite cool. It's just quite nice just to play some different modes, I feel. This game really does shine in its traditional mode of 1v1, don't get me wrong. And the 2v2 is actually quite good fun as well if you've not tried it. But the 1v1 is where this shines, 100%. I'm not trying to take away from that, but it's quite nice to have some different options, and especially now we find ourselves in so much of a lockdown with so many restrictions. Solo modes are becoming really, really strong and really, really important in games. So I keep developing that solo variant as well. But the hope is to, just bring out some different ideas and see how it goes and keep it a little bit more fresh. But hopefully through playing some of these leagues and tournaments, we'll start to see. I know people have talked about a tier list of characters. Very hard for this game because this game's all about the combinations of characters rather than a single character on their own. Yeah, of course, Shizao has got a bit of everything. Corvash is just a brutal damage dealer. Taze as well. But so many of them have got their own unique twist, which really works well and combos really well with other characters. The kind of Shizao Corvash combination, of course, is synonymous with how powerful those two characters are. So I think we'll start to see that kind of, I guess, team tier list where it's like the best three characters together, that kind of thing, or two characters really close to who work very, very well together. And that will kind of help people decide who they want to ban from the other team, especially if they've not got a lot of experience at the game. And I think, inevitably what we saw from the official tournament that happened a few months ago is that, damage dealing is important. I don't think there's anything about that because number one, if you take out a character, it gives you a VP, but the other thing is it takes them away from objectives. That's kind of the main thing because those challenges are how you score your points. So you want some manipulation in that or some damage dealing or a bit of both. If you can get both, you're winning on all angles. And I think we saw that through the higher level of play was just focusing on those challenges, forcing the opponent to come after them and really destroy them and try and put them in the position to stop that. With reactions, of course, reactions can be really strong. I mean, they're such a powerful part of the game and sometimes overlooked, but they're so, so important when you decide on your three characters. So that's a little bit about variants and the future. We don't seem to... Oh dear. Yep. So So that was the information about the league. Hopefully some more people join on and register for the league. You've got until Friday to kind of think. Just ask any questions in the comments below, or go to the Discord channel and ask questions there, and then we can get started on Sunday. So from Sunday with the first round matches. So the plan is, by getting everything kind of finalised on Friday, on Saturday I can sort out groups, pairings, all the rest of it. And then we can get started pretty much straight off the bat on Sunday. And you can arrange your games. Perhaps you can even arrange your games on Sunday for the future. So that will be the plan. As long as you get your game in that week, so before, I think I said 11 PM on the Sunday, GMT that is, then that's absolutely fine. And then I can get the results in, update Battlefy, and more importantly, seed the characters and sort out the next fixtures from that point. Okay, that's all I wanted to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about information and what's coming up for this league, and fingers crossed we get some good games in. I'm sure we will. It's such a great game. So no matter if you're winning or losing, it's a hell of a blast. It's really good fun. Just to point out again, just that one little difference that you may not be aware, other than other games of Super Fantasy Brawl, is during the group stage for the one game matches, the second player will be able to mulligan up to one card from the challenge deck during setup. So when you draw the challenge cards, this is before you place traps, before you deploy characters, of course, and even before you draw cards. So this all happens before that happens, or else it'd be so unfair, because then player 2 is going to get a huge advantage, of course. So it's just looking at those challenges straight off the bat and saying, do I like both of those? Are they going to just tie into player 1's advantage too much? Okay. So that's the only homemade house rule for this tournament league. Sorry. Okay. So if there's no questions, I'm going to close the stream. I look forward to seeing the final setup for the league, and of course playing some games against all of you guys. So until Friday, which is when you've got time to register, and then on Sunday I'll do another live stream kickstarting this online league, and then we'll take it from there. Okay guys, see you later.